microcosm of my life. Like Eric Bieniemy, I don't think he calls plays, but he did set up their offense. Like I think Andy Reid is the one who calls the plays in Kansas City. But the fact that he helped fix Patrick Mahomes' flaws and made him an elite quarterback. Kliff Kingsbury just had Mahomes throw for a lot of yards at Texas Tech, and they weren't good. And when they were good and he won like 8 games, you know what Kliff Kingsbury did? He won with Tommy Tuberville's players. It goes back to the theme. White coaches can win with somebody else's players and then be the head coach for a team that sucks for like 5 years. But a black head coach who finally gets a job gets fired after 1 year, or 2 years, or 3 years with a QB he never picked, with injuries he never foresaw, with ownership that didn't want to pay the best player.
Well, guess what?
There's no benefit of the doubt there for
so if you want to look at it that way, guess all these white coaches are getting karma because none of them are really in great positions except for what? Maybe LaFleur?
They're all getting reach. Yeah, but LaFleur is only the head coach for offensive purposes. Not can he overall lead a team of men. He's barely older than Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, man.
Like, Mike McCarthy wanted the Jets jobs. Didn't get it. Taking the year off. Fine.
Yeah, I can't even believe I felt sympathetic for Mike McCarthy for 0.30 seconds.
I mean, he gets to spend time with his family. Good for him. But Arians felt like he always wanted to get back to coaching. And like you said, he had his staff together very quickly. So when you factor that in, it's like, okay, this dude's ready to jump back in. The NFL's not calling for Lovie Smith after, by the way, he was getting ready to turn that Tampa Bay team around, put people in place, and then they fire him and bring in Dirk Cutter. And what did Dirk Cutter do? Be terrible for like 3 years. But no one just says that. Dirk Cutter's already the offensive coordinator for the Atlanta Falcons. It happened that fast. He got a job that fast. Lovie Smith is down at Illinois. He's kind of rebuilding their program. But the man couldn't even get another NFL job. And he got in the last NFL job he got hosed out of it by a dude, which, by the way, go look at Dirk Cutter's career at Arizona State. Wasn't that impressive. He had like 1 or 2 good years with Rudy Carpenter.
All right, man. So can we move on? Anything else you want to say on the topic of head coaching hires? Really quick.
Just remember these 2 takeaways. The ratio issue is a huge aspect because, like I said, there's not that many GMs, not many front office people at all. Coordinators don't get a chance to either run the offensive line or be near the quarterback as to reasons of why Pete said, reasons to what I said. And most importantly, the league is pretty much they're pretty much forcing defense out of the league. Like with how they officiate, how they find guys, how all these so-called QB whisperers and QB fixers do things, and then the offensive end up bland anyway. That's pretty much the way it's going. Whether you're in college, they're reaching. The NFL is reaching horribly. Like Dino Babers is going to be a hot name, even though he got an extension to stay at Syracuse for a while. He'll be a hot name. I think he should have got some head coach consideration, seeing how he's more successful at Syracuse than Kliff Kingsbury was at Texas Tech. But it is what it is.
Yeah, man. On that note, speaking of yes, man, the Oakland Raiders' new GM, Mike Mayock, former NFL analyst, who's essentially been called a made man now, is also essentially a yes man. This week, Mayock said basically him and John Gruden are going to have a lot of arguments about personnel decisions, and there's going to be a lot of back and forth, but at the end of the day, Gruden's going to have a final say. And that's a lot, bro, because, yeah, Gruden has the long-term contract, but essentially the front office is supposed to be in charge of the head coach because the front office oversees kind of everything and how the scouting and the coaching and the operations, how all those things kind of coincide versus the head coach is really just responsible for the on-field product.
Has Mayock ever been a GM before?
No, he hasn't.
Has he ever had any front office experience before?
He's been in scouting departments.
But I mean outside of scouting, not humanities, but like human resources, anything like that. Managerial.
I mean, you mean the administration?
Administrative side. Has he any experience doing that?
I doubt it. I don't think so. I don't know.
So a guy, and then by the way, they hired Ryan Grigson to come in to help him do his job too.
So that's going to be the dude with the administrative experience too.
Who they kind of failed. He kind of failed with the Colts. You could say he kind of failed with the Colts. So Ryan Grigson is gonna, I guess, usher in and help that side out. And really, Mayock is just there for draft evaluation. And honestly, he's probably Gruden's go-to yes man. If we're just being honest.
I think it's bad because one, you got another Gruden enabler. Two, as we've already talked about, you got that whole media cliche thing. But ultimately, this is where I think the problem is you got two guys who've been looking at football from what you could conceive as an objective perspective, meaning they don't really have any skin in the game, and now they have skin in the game, and it's like, okay, what is your identity going to be? Because we know what Gruden's identity was in the 2000s, but honestly, it's not really fair to say we even really knew what that was because, one, I mean, in Oakland, he had Al Davis, and then in Tampa Bay, he had Dungy's team, and then he had a mediocre team. So...
And their brain trust.
The point is...
Glazer family.
The point is, I trust Mayock in terms of breaking down a scout from an objective perspective, but now he's got to take that and actually embed it and help them execute and help them develop. We're not just talking about like, oh, I'm creating content, I'm trying to make predictions, I'm trying to like, share insights on this player. Now you're trying to do that and see the bigger picture of where is this guy going to be in 5 years. It's not just
and how we're going to pay him.
Exactly. It's not just I'm gonna break him down 1 year and then go back to it when I cover his game once a year. It's like, okay, like you're investing your professional reputation in these players. And so the fact that Gruden doesn't have an identity, Gruden's not going to know what he wants. I don't know if Mayock is going to be able to give him that. And so I expect the Raiders' draft strategy to be just kind of all over the place, honestly. And honestly, I don't think it could get any worse than last year, so whatever.
It could. I mean, the Deadskins already lost what's his face? The guy who ruined the Raiders Super Bowl hopes.
Wu said shout out to the Raiders for letting the Seahawks sign Seabass.
And Amari Cooper?
Well, because, Seabass got hurt in the playoff.
Pulled a hamstring?
Yep.
His fat finally won out.
Which, by the way, we got to get to. We didn't even get to the playoff stuff.
We will. But in the time being, I look at a guy like Mike Mayock, and I look at how they're spinning it, and teams do. Like, man, between the Steelers and the Raiders, the PR is amazing. Like, they are spinning it in a way, and they could say it's not spin, but you're manipulating the argument to suit you as you go. That's a form of agenda setting, that's a form of manipulation, and that's a form of spinning. So, yeah. All in the name of PR, which is dirty to even hide behind that. Because PR isn't spin. Facts. Anyway. When it comes to them, it's like every move they make, they'll find a way to justify it. And it's like Gruden still has that same brashness that he had when he was younger. And it's kind of like, it feels like the Emperor has no clothes. Where they're hiding something. They're hiding some kind of malfeasance or some kind of just like, oh, let's just pretend there's no hole in the Death Star over there. Shout out to Mancini. Yeah. Happy New Year. Let's just pretend like, there's not a huge hole in the Death Star that if they hit it at this angle, it would blow up and kill everybody. Let's just not pretend like this is in a charade, or we're not, just trying really hard to kind of, overcompensate for whatever we're lacking. That's what it feels like in Oakland. Because you can't tell me, with everything they've blown up, with the decisions they've made, do you see Derek Carr here? Do you see Derek Carr as like, okay, like with how they ran that offense, with how good his completion percentage numbers were, but technically how bad he kind of played. But if you can leverage that and use it as trade bait, you can't tell me they can't get a Jalen Ramsey or a Leonard Fournette.
That's what I'm saying, though, is this regime is so far off the radar that I couldn't even really tell you what they're going to do because I don't know what brand of football they really want to play.
Some Palpatine type stuff.
Because, like, even with Derek Carr, he went under – they've been trying to make him go under shotgun. Like, every year they've been trying to make him go under shotgun, but that's not really his style. He's a 6'1" QB who's
6'2".
somewhat gun-shy. Like, he plays his best game out of the shotgun.
He plays his best game pitching and catching.
Yeah, exactly.
What he did at Fresno
plays
State.
his best game playing 7-on-7, but being able to scramble.
Yeah. But it's like the issue there, and it goes back to the whole viewpoint of a lot of these teams. And remember, it used to be about getting a franchise quarterback.
Yeah.
Now it's about
getting a good enough quarterback. It's about getting a good enough quarterback
to execute your basic system
when they're young, so that you can build out the roster around them,
and then
pay your players around them,
pay them proportionate to what they've done. That way, they don't complain about more money later. And if you have to get rid of them, because like this last crop of quarterbacks like Brady, Manning, Roethlisberger, once these guys go, it's a whole new era. And that's what we're seeing. You're going to get QBs to fit an offense, to fit a system, instead of finding the right guy who's just the right guy. That's why I think Haskins out of Ohio State is the perfect player for the Giants. Transition Eli out, bring a guy like him in. He's already proven he can make every throw, do everything at the college level, and he did it at Ohio State. So there's no excuses like, oh, he ran a spread. Ryan Day, they ran kind of a spread, but it was a passing spread, like a pro spread. Whereas in the past at Ohio State, all the quarterbacks were just running a spread. He's not J.T. Barrett. He's not Troy Smith. He's much better than all those guys. So when it comes to this whole issue of scouting, it really is just an offensive. Everything is becoming offensive minded and based. What are you getting pass rushers for? Well, to stop quarterbacks. Corners are becoming more of a premium now, where you got a guy like Greedy Williams who might be a top 5 pick.
Yeah.
D tackles, they're noticing, okay, these defensive tackles, if we use them right, can do big things. Like in Seattle.
There's going to be so many defensive tackles in the first round this next year.
There's a lot of D tackles who could end up getting 10.5 sacks, but you don't say they're one of the best defensive linemen in football. And that's crazy when you think about it.
You know what's really crazy? How wrong you were about Poona Ford.
Did you really?
You thought I was going to let that one go, huh?
Yeah, I was wrong about one Texas defensive tackle. Ooh, I can tell you were so wrong about Antoine Woods.
I don't know who that is.
Exactly. USC nose tackle. Cowboys nose tackle. Got cut by the Titans. Plays for the Cowboys.
So I wouldn't say I was wrong. I just was.
No, you said USC was trash. When they were losing to UCLA, you said they were trash. And other players are going to get drafted. And he didn't get drafted, but he ended up being a really good player. So you were wrong.
So I wasn't wrong. I just was not
last
fully
good
correct.
UCLA D tackle.
Eddie Vanderdoes?
Andy Vander doesn't?
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
All right, man. Next up.
Gross. Just gross.
Leonard Fournette. He met with Tom Coughlin and some of the other Jaguar leaders in the locker room.
Trust.
And pretty much
quotes.
They wanted to clear the air. Quotes again.
Air quotes.
And continue the relationship moving forward. Now, when there's smoke, is there fire or is the fire out?
Or is it just vape?
Yeah. You tell me, KB.
I think they want to make sure things are good because they're either going to move